Hello and welcome again to the Bench Report, where we discuss recent debates and briefings from the benches of the UK Parliament. A new topic every episode. You're listening to Amy and Ivan. Today, we're exploring a really critical parliamentary debate. It shines a light on the often underestimated challenges facing remote coastal communities across the UK. It's a revealing discussion, especially around this concept called pretty poverty.
Hmm. That term from Plymouth Margin University. It really captures something, doesn't it? Deprivation hidden behind, well, scenic beauty.
Exactly. And for you listening, it might be startling to hear that around 15% of the UK population lives in coastal settlements. And get this, many of these areas are 42% more likely to experience the lowest income deprivation compared to places inland. So, how does this hidden struggle actually take root?
Well, a fundamental issue is geographical remoteness.
Hmm.
Physical isolation combined with sparse populations, it's not just inconvenient, it dramatically increases the cost and the sheer complexity of delivering essential public services.
Can you give an example of that cost?
Sure. Think about home-to-school transport in Cornwall. The cost there can be twice as much as it is in London boroughs. That's a huge difference. It really underscores why big infrastructure projects, like the Dawlish Rail Resilience Program, are so vital for basic connectivity.
That cost comparison is striking. And what about opportunities for people living there, especially younger people?
That's where you hear about the half-compass effect. It's quite a poignant term. Imagine the sea on one side, poor transport links on the other. It sort of boxes young people in, severely limits their opportunities, their access to education, to jobs.
A half compass. That really paints a picture of limited horizons. And moving beyond those logistical hurdles, it seems the housing crisis is, well, an even sharper symptom of this pretty poverty. How do the seasonal markets make things worse for year-round residents?
It's a tough cycle. You see, coastal housing markets, driven by that seasonal appeal, end up with a really high proportion of second homes and short-term lets.
Is there data on that?
There is. Take Cornwall, for instance. Last year, around 24,000 properties were listed as short-term lets. That's up 30% since just 2019. This doesn't just shrink the housing supply for locals. It pushes prices way beyond what residents can afford. Often leaves homes sitting empty for months on end, too.
So the very beauty that attracts people ends up harming the local community.
In a way, yes. The investment it attracts can starve the community it's meant to support. You create this situation where the essential workforce, nurses, teachers, hospitality staff, they just can't afford to live there anymore. And there have been concerns raised, too, about some second homeowners shifting properties onto business rates.
To avoid council tax.
To avoid council tax, and in some cases, claiming significant COVID aid intended for businesses.
That's concerning. So what's the wider impact then when homes become primarily investments rather than places for local families to live? It must go beyond just affordability.
Absolutely. When local people are priced out, communities can lose their heart, their core. Young people especially face educational isolation, fewer local job opportunities, which leads to what's often called a brain drain. They move inland seeking better prospects.
And that changes the whole demographic makeup.
It does. You end up with an older population. The median age in coastal built-up areas is 42. That's 3 years older than non-coastal areas. And with an older population comes increased need for health and social care. There's talk of a coastal excess of disease, lower life expectancy. And what's really frustrating for these communities is that the standard ways we measure deprivation, like the indices of multiple deprivation, often don't fully capture these specific coastal issues.
It seems like a paradox, too, with tourism. It brings money in, but also pressure.
A huge pressure. That seasonal influx of visitor strains already stretched public services, things like waste collection, emergency services. They face these massive seasonal cost surges, but standard funding models don't usually account for that peak demand properly.
And you mentioned massed communities earlier. What does that mean?
It's a really interesting observation. In some areas, people end up living year-round in accommodation meant for holidays, like static caravans. They become sort of invisible to official data, living off the grid in plain sight. It further skews those deprivation figures, meaning their needs aren't properly recognized or planned for.
So all this really highlights the need for change.
Definitely. There are strong calls for a specific remote coastal strategy and for fair funding reviews that genuinely factor in remoteness, those visitor numbers, all these unique challenges. The argument is that investment should see these communities not just as problems to be solved, but as places with untapped potential. It needs central government support, yes, but also more power devolves locally.
And is the government listening? What's the official response been like?
They are acknowledging the unique challenges. There's talk of reforms in local government finance, potentially redirecting funding towards communities that need it most, including coastal ones. And there are specific programs, too. The Camborne Town deal, for example, that's nearly $25 million for regeneration there.
Any others?
Yes, the UK Shared Prosperity Fund is providing significant local investment, replacing some of the old EU funds. And there's a $1.5 billion plan for neighborhoods, with coastal towns featuring prominently receiving substantial funds for regeneration.
So some steps are being taken. But thinking about everything we've discussed, the hidden deprivation, the seasonal strains, that brain drain effect, what concrete steps, perhaps beyond the current funding streams and strategies, are really essential to make sure these vital coastal communities can genuinely flourish and keep their unique character for the future? As always, find us on social media at Bench Report UK. Get in touch with any topic important to you. Remember, politics is everyone's business.
Hello there, this is Tom, the producer of The Bench Report. Listener suggestions are vital to my mission of making politics more accessible and accountable. So, if you have an issue that's really important to you, personally or professionally, and want to know what those in power are doing about it, please get in touch via email or via our socials at Bench Report UK. I'll grab another coffee and start scanning those parliamentary archives.